Hello and welcome to Tea with Fee. It's the first one of 2023. Go and grab yourself a drink of something and let's get chatting about all things crafting. So today I wanted to just have a quick chat about my go-to crafting, what's the word I'm looking for? Crafting tools. That's the word. Crafting tools. And it depends on what the craft is. So the first thing I want to talk to you about today is my current work in progress, which has been a work in progress for several years now. And it is this cross stitch. So I'm currently making this cross stitch, and a very dear friend of mine gave me the kit, and I am determined to get it finished so that I can get it framed and put it up on the wall, and then every time I see it I will remember Bet. So that's the plan. And I am not a cross stitcher normally. It's definitely not one of my top go-to crafts. I prefer crocheting, knitting or sewing. So this was a little bit out of my comfort zone, and interestingly, in typical Fiona fashion, instead of going for something really small for my first attempt, like something this size, I've gone for like probably the biggest thing that I will ever cross stitch. So that probably wasn't my best idea. For those of you that haven't watched before, my name's Fiona, and this is Make It So HQ, which is the shed in the bottom of the garden where I do all my crafty things. Feel free to subscribe and click the little bell thing so that you can keep up on any new videos. So I'm hoping to do them on a weekly basis, but we will wait and see what happens. So anyway, back to this. So yeah, so my first cross stitch really, and I've gone like massive. Anyway, we're on the home straight now, and the point of the conversation is, what are my go-to tools for each craft? So this is a new thing. So the frame has been lent to me by a friend, and this is one of the ones that you stitch onto the frame, and this is working pretty well for me. I like the fact that the whole thing is near enough on the frame, and I just need to roll it up and down. So you might be able to see, if you look closely, where the hoop was. So it was a relatively big hoop, and it's been dropped several times in the hoop next to the coal fire. So you can see here, like there's a ring. So it's got coal dust and all sorts on it, but I'm determined it's going to get finished. So that's a new tool that I am currently using, and I would recommend it. I've ordered myself one, but it's not a sew-on one, it's a clip-on one, so I'm not quite sure whether I'm going to like that or not. So watch this space, and when I've used it I will let you know which one I prefer. But the thing that I did want to show you was this little container is absolutely perfect for this project. So I am going to show you what's in the container. So I'm going to just flip the camera and then we will talk about what's in the container. Okay, so I have flipped the camera and I'm just going to show you what's in this container. Now, as you can see, it's actually quite small, which is perfect for a project on the go. So it's under 5 inches by 7 inches. I've just measured it on the mat. So it's really small. It's like, that's my hand, so it's probably book size really, and it's about 2 inches thick. Now this is where it gets good. Inside, now bearing in mind the size of my project, so the project is really quite big. I've got 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 24 thread bobbins, all rolled up, and they're all laid out nicely. There's room for plenty more, so I really think that this would be big enough for most projects. And this is the bit that I particularly like. So this bit here is like a full length slot. These are like cut in half so that you can stand up your little cards in them. But this one's full length. So that's worked out perfectly to fit my scissors in, which are on this cute little pin cushion, which my friend Sue made for me, and it's absolutely amazing. So you can stick your pin on there so you don't lose it. And that fits really nicely in this slot here. I've also got my pencil in there as well. And that works really well because I can then have everything to hand. This is the colour that I'm currently working on, and these are the ones that I've got more than one of, and they're just rolled up in this little section here. And then this one here is just my threads that I'm not going to use and they need to go in the bin. So literally you could take that anywhere and you're not even going to leave a mess behind or anything, so it's really good. So I really like that. I've also got in the lid here, I've just washi taped the pattern and the key for the different colours, and I have stuck that to the inside of the lid so that I don't lose it. And the actual pattern itself is a little bit of a disaster area. So that was photocopied for me. And I started off various different colours. I'm now just using pencil to colour in the squares that I've done, or the crosses that I've done. And I've literally just got it washi taped to a bit of cardboard because it's literally just A4 paper. And it's literally falling apart because it's been going for that long. So that is my recommended tool for cross stitching. So I just wanted to share that with you. So this is the one that I definitely recommend. I'll put a link to it in the description, or you can buy it off my website, so I'll put a link to that on there as well. This I'm really liking, but I'm not going to recommend it till I've tried the other one, and then I can compare the two and I will let you know. So we're just going to flip back to the other camera, and then I'm going to talk to you about my next project. Right, so we've just been talking about this, so I'm going to put it back in its bag. This is fabulous. These bags are actually amazing. These are reversible project bags that I do in my sewing lessons with my sewing ladies, and I'm going to do a workshop on it as well. It's currently not available in my shop as a pattern to buy, but I am working on that. So it's amazing how much stuff you can get in this. So that's like everything in the one bag. So that's the other thing that would be quite interesting to know. How many projects do you have currently on the go, and how do you store them? So I tend to have a project bag for each project. So this was another gift from Laura and Kaz for Christmas, which was full of goodies. And this was actually my cross stitch bag until I was given the frame, but the frame was too big to fit in this bag, so I had to switch it out. So this is currently without a project. On my list of projects to do though, coming up soon, I need to repair some socks, and this would be absolutely perfect for that project because I'd get all the socks in there. I've got 5 pairs of socks that need to get repaired, so this is probably going to get used for that. Anyway, the next thing I wanted to talk to you about was tools that are used when I am sewing. So when I'm sat at my sewing machine, I have go-to items that I just always use, and they're just kind of like my regular items, and I wanted to share those with you too. So I am going to do that now. So we're just going to switch camera, and then we are going to have a look at what my go-tos are. Right. So I'm going to talk you through my go-to sewing at the machine must-haves. So the first thing is the pin cushion. Gotta have a pin cushion. I actually have 2, so I kind of have like a 1 in 1 out system. So I have these on the left because I'm left-handed. So if you're right-handed, you maybe would do it the other way around. But I have this one on the left to pin all my items together, And then when I am sewing and I'm removing the pins, I tend to have an empty one on the right, and then I then fill up that one with the pins that I've used, and then this one will end up empty and this one will end up full, and then it'll get switched over. So these are my favourite pin cushions. There is a pattern available on my website to make one of these, and what I like about it is the pins, it's fat enough that the pins, even these really long pins, literally don't stick out the bottom. So I find that really useful, and because they're quite heavy, they also double up as a pattern weight. So this is one of my must-have items when I am sat at my sewing machine. This is another of my must-have items. This is my scrap bag. I've got a bit of a thing about reversible, so like either of these can be used either way. This one can be turned inside out, and when it was made, I had a smaller sewing machine. So the regular sewing machine feet fit nicely in here, so it makes it really good for storage when you're packing everything away. The sewing machine foot fits in there, and you can slide it into the gap of your sewing machine when you then go to put it all away. So that was kind of like a double bonus for that particular project. I really like it. I use it all the time. It also came when I made it for my original machine. It's got like a hanging loop on this side, so that you can then, I don't have one handy, hang on. So it has a hanging loop, and it came with a strap. So imagine this is the strap. So that goes round there like that. And this bit here is attached to a pin cushion. And then it hangs off the edge of your work surface, and then you can collect your scraps hanging off the edge of the table. And then it also has on the other side a loop that goes this way, and then the purpose of that was that you could put your strap round that side, and that bit would then hang round the side of the machine like so, and this would hang off the side of the machine. I don't use it for that purpose anymore because I have a different machine, and that wouldn't work because it has buttons on the front, like an electrical computerized machine with buttons on the front, so the tire bit doesn't work anymore. But the actual scrap bag still gets used all the time. And my final must-have is my little mini sewing kit. So this is a pattern that I designed because I was thinking about the stuff that I was using all the time when I was at the sewing machine, and wanted to have them all to hand so that I could just grab and I knew everything would be in there. So that's basically how this came about. So you can see, and you could tailor this to work for you. Again, it's a really good size. It's kind of like hand size. It's about 4 inches by 7 inches. And then it's got a magnetic fastening. You open it up, and then this is where you can tailor it to suit you. And it does say that in the pattern as well. So for example, this centre bit here has got my tweezers in it, which are really useful, especially if you're using your overlocker. So it means I always know where the tweezers are. That also, depending on your pen, doubles up as somewhere to put a pen. So you could potentially switch this out and use it as like a notebook cover, as an alternative. So that's where my tweezers go in there. There's a pocket on this side, which I keep my pins and a tape measure in. And then we've got spare needles, a pocket for spare needles. This one here, you can put another pocket in, or it fits a bobbin, sewing machine bobbin. Because it's always quite handy to have a spare one of those. So that fits in there. And then this is literally just elastic that's been stitched in place. So I've got a couple of marker pens, my scissors, seam ripper, the little lint brush, and then this is just hand cream, because I don't know about you, but my hands get really dry when I'm sewing, or knitting or crocheting. So I've got hand cream in there, but you could quite easily switch that out for a reel of thread, which would fit in there as well. And then the whole thing just shuts up, and it's just everything that I use all the time is to hand. So I just wanted to share that particular project with you just now, and my go-to items when I am sewing. So I'm just going to switch you back over to the other camera, and then we're going to talk about our final item. Fabulous. So we've just been talking about the pincushion scrap bag and the little go-to sewing machine kit, and I actually keep this in the front pocket of my sewing machine. So my sewing machine cover has got these 3 pockets. So I put my pedal in there. That's my work logbook. And then my sewing machine kit fits perfectly in here. And it means that I always know where it is. And then if I'm going sewing to somebody else's house, I know exactly where to go to get what it is that my regular go-to sewing kit. So that's where I keep mine. So I would love to know what your sewing kit looks like. What are your go-to items and where do you keep it? Right, anyway, back to the final thing that I have that is my must. Right, so you might have realised when you've seen where I keep the sewing kit, what my final must-have tool is for my crafting journey, and it is the craft planner. So as you've seen a minute ago, this is my work one, and the plan is for this is that I can log all the stuff that I do for Make It Sew as a business in my planner. So all my memory bears, cushions, and the project boxes that I make up, all the patterns and makes throughout the year will be logged in there, and it gives me a really good reference book at the end of the year to look back on and see what I actually did. So I've done that for the last couple of years for my own personal projects, and at the end of the year you may have seen me discussing whether or not to have a new planner start again for this year, or whether I just continue with the old planner. So I decided I was going to start a new one. So this is the new one for 2023. I have already completed a project for 2023. I'm so excited. So this is the inside. It's just the cover page, and it just tells you a bit about the idea of behind the planner. The front page is a calendar at a glance, and you can use this for depending on how you operate, you can use this to work out what you're going to try and do each month. If you've got that many projects on the go and you're working to a specific deadline, you could put them in here. So for example, in my work one, if somebody has given me a commission to do and it's got a deadline of March, I can put that in there as it needs to be done by March. And last year when I was making the Manx Log Cabin quilt, I decided at the start of the year I wanted to have it finished by November, and that was a massive ask. But what I did was I broke it down into how many squares I needed to do for each month, and I planned that in here to start with. Now, it didn't go to plan in the end, however it was a really good place to start, and it helped me focus. What I did discover though was limiting myself to only doing the squares actually took the enjoyment out of it in the end, and I had to shelf it and then go and do something else. And then when I then came back to it again, I was much happier about it. So the project planning aspect of that particular project didn't actually work on that occasion, but it was really quite interesting to actually see that journey through. Then the next page is a double page of UFOs, unfinished objects, and works in progress. And I've split it this year. So what I did with last year's book, I went through what I hadn't done, celebrated the ones I had done, and that was great because there was a lot of things that I hadn't actually realised that I had done or had forgotten about because it had been so long. So I went through the book, decided which ones I really didn't want to do anymore and didn't carry them forward to this year. And I've also split them this year into ones that are actually already in progress at the beginning of the year, and things that I have just not started, but I've got all the stuff. So it's not going to cost me any money because I already have everything I need to get going. I've just not started it yet. So I've got these two columns. I've got in progress, not started, and then I've got a separate column here which is going to be my gift ideas for the year. So if you've got any of you out there that like to do handmade gifts for Christmas or birthdays and stuff, it's quite a good way to start thinking about that. So that's how I have split it out this year, and it'll be interesting to see how that goes. Now, the good thing about the planner is all the pages are numbered. So what I have done here is the cross stitch that I'm currently working on, which I have called Bet's cross stitch. I have used the square to write the page number in. So I know that that is actually on page 4, and I've written it in page 4. What it's called, I don't know when I started it. So I've literally put the start date as pre-2022. I've listed all the threads that I've been using and thoughts that I've learnt so far. So, and then this page, depending on what it is that you're doing, is for diagrams and things like that. So if you're like creating something from scratch, that's quite useful. Or if you're doing a jumper and it's cabling or whatever, it's also good for that. The other thing about this planner is it is for all your crafts in one go, which is why it's so versatile, and why the cover says cross stitch, embroidery, crafting, quilting, crochet, sewing and knitting, because I do a lot of the crafts. I didn't want a one planner or a planner for each craft. So yeah, so that is Bet's on page 4. Then I've got 5 or 6 pairs of socks that need fixed. So they're going to be on the next page. I've already allocated a page for them. And then at Impulse's spur of the moment make from last week was a crochet basket. So it's now been added to the list and written in to the book. And I like to colour code things. Now, I don't have my highlighters here, or I'd be doing it just now because it's annoying me that it's not done. But when it's done, it gets highlighted in green. So this one at the bottom will get highlighted in green to say that I have finished it. And then I'm going to go back to the cross stitch. So again, I'm trying to stick to one until it's finished. But that felt like the crochet basket felt like it would be a really quick win. And I quite fancied just because everybody else was doing it. So I thought that I would give it a go. But it took me slightly longer than I thought it was going to take. And it really hurt my hands. So it was like a 10mm hook, 6 strands of double knit, but I was actually using cotton, so there was no giving it at all. I ended up with blisters. My hand was sore by the end of it, so I don't think I'll be making another one. But I am glad that I've made it and it will get used. What it's going to get used for at the minute, I'm not sure. I've made it to go into my new Make It So office, which is currently in the process of getting done up. So I'll show you some pictures of that or do a video of it once it's finished. So that's for me to do all my admin and stuff, because much as I love my shed, in winter it is really cold, and I was actually like blue. And I've done some videos previously and a couple of months ago, and you could actually see my breath in the videos inside the shed because it was that cold. So I kind of thought, you know what, the spare room can be doubling up as a little office for doing non-sewing things. So that's the plan. So it's in progress. So watch this space, and I have nicknamed it the Make It So Studio. So we have Make It So HQ, which is down here, and Make It So Studio, which is basically the spare room / box room because it is tiny. But yeah, so that's it. So I just thought I would share those little must-haves of mine. I haven't really touched on my crochet or knitting must-haves, and that's because I'm not currently doing knitting or crocheting at the minute. So when I start up my next one of those, I'll talk you through what goes in my little kind of toolbox, if you like, for want of a better word. So most of my projects have some sort of little bag with them, and that's where all my essentials go. So I've shown you the sewing one. The cross stitch one's that little box because that just works perfectly. But for my knitting and my crochet projects, they tend to be in something like this, along with the bigger bag that houses the project. So yeah, so watch this space for the next video, and I will see you next week at Tea with Fee will be at 5 o'clock on a Friday. So if you want to tune in for future Tea with Fees, then please subscribe and hit the bell button. And then you get notified when there is a new one. But as a rule, we're hoping for 5 o'clock on a Friday. And that's 5 p.m. That's not 5 a.m. I know I did say I was going to get up at 5 a.m. but I've not managed that yet. And I don't think you would appreciate a little alarm going off at 5 a.m. to say that I was going live. And I don't think you'd want to see me at 5 a.m. in the morning either. So anyway, but it's been lovely chatting to you all. I've missed you. It's nice to be back. And who knows what we'll be talking about next week. If you have a topic that you would like me to discuss, then please write it in the comments and I'll see what I can do. But thanks so much for watching. Have a brilliant weekend and I will see you next week.